The Brentwood Board of Aldermen meeting for October 16th, 2017.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Here.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Weggie. Mayor Thornton.
Here. Item number 3 on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes? I have one change that I would suggest. Item 18B needs to be part of a closed session. So I would, if there's no objection to moving item 18B to the closed meeting on under 20.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we'll do that. Any other changes to the agenda? Any objection to approval by acclamation? Okay. Consideration and approval of meeting minutes from October 2nd. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes from October 2nd? Seeing none, any objection to acclamation? Great, they're approved by acclamation. 5, 6, 7, and 8, we don't have anything this evening. Which brings us to 9, hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present. If anyone would care to come forward and address the board, you'll be given 3 minutes. Anyone? Any topic at all? Seeing none. We have no unfinished business tonight, and we have one bill to be given a second reading under item number 12. Mr. City Attorney, we have bill number 6156.1 by title only, please.
Mr. Mayor, the staff has circulated a proposed amendment to Bill 6156, identified for these purposes as Bill 6156.1. If it is the board's pleasure, a motion to amend that before second reading would be in order.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the board amend the bill as indicated in the red line. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Okay, so now before the board is Bill 6156 as amended. Mr. City Attorney, could we have, I guess, first reading, or do you want to?
Just second
Second
reading.
reading by title only, please.
Right, I would add that the amendment is, as the board is aware, is largely technical and having to do with simplifying the bill and technical
Making it better.
draftsmanship.
Got it.
Making the title shorter, which is a big thing to me. Bill number 6156.1, second reading as amended, and consideration for adoption. An ordinance amending Title III of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, and establishing a no parking zone in an area on the south side of Bridgeport Avenue, west of Brentwood Boulevard.
All right, Alderman Kramer, do we have a synopsis?
Yes, Your Honor. Bill 6156.1, the amendment to the Brentwood Municipal Code parking restrictions for resident-only parking signage at the 8800 block of Bridgeport Avenue, the amendment of Schedule 3, Table 3A, no parking between signs. Back in June of this year, the resident at 8812 Bridgeport Avenue voiced concerns the vehicles parked adjacent to either side of her driveway were either employees or patrons for Enterprise Car Rental, and that location at 2229 Brentwood Boulevard, which is just east of 8812 Bridgeport Avenue. The problem is that the backing out of the driveway at the 8812 site on Bridgeport is difficult and sometimes unsafe due to sight distance being reduced by parked vehicles on either side of the driveway. Public Works Committee has unanimously recommended to the Board of Aldermen here this evening an ordinance approving the no parking between signs addition, including the prescribed distances for the sign locations, with a new prohibition of the bill. The only area on the south side of Bridgeport, west of Brentwood, where parking would be allowed would be the 33 feet between 102 and 135, and then again west of the 170-foot mark. This is the language in revised Bill 6156.1.
All right, thank you. Let's see, entertain a motion to perfect.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second. Been moved and seconded that the board perfect Bill number 6156.1 into ordinance form. Is there any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may, I'd like to correct the synopsis again. The Public Works Committee did not address this issue. Public Safety Committee did to work with. The question I'd like to raise, Your Honor, is the photograph that was provided in the memo packet that we were given. There's a fire hydrant. That's on the north side of the road, and we're dealing with the south side of the road? Or is that part of the area that we're talking about?
Nope, it's on the north side.
It is on the north side, and she's on is on the south side of the thing, okay. Thank you, I was trying to put that in perspective. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Demmett.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Bill number 6156.1 is hereby passed and upon signature of the mayor becomes ordinance 4804.
Honor, if I could just add one thing about this.
Sure.
To Alderman Leahy's point, while not the author of the synopses read each evening for the bills and resolutions, I'll try to be a little bit more careful in scanning the verbiage prior to the announcing part.
It's good.
All set?
Thank you.
Item number 14 on the agenda, resolution. We have one resolution this evening. Alderman Kramer, would you read a synopsis of the resolution?
Surely, Your Honor. This is resolution number 1081, the dog park policies and procedures. Parks and Recreation Department has updated the department's policies and procedures by including a new chapter, Chapter 13, entitled Dog Park Policies and Procedures. The chapter includes information on membership eligibility, procedures for registration, capacity, age limits, general rules, and membership revocation. In addition, staff has updated Appendix B, the hours of operation, and Appendix C, facility fees, to include information on the dog park. Our Public Works Committee recommends to the Board of Aldermen with a vote of 3 in favor of 1 absent or abstention, a positive recommendation to approve amending the Parks and Recreation Department's Policies and Procedures Manual with the inclusion of Chapter 13 Dog Park Policies and Procedures and Appendix B and C. This is Resolution 1081.
All right, I guess we'll start with a motion to adopt Resolution 1081, if somebody would be so inclined.
So moved.
Which of
Second.
you wants to so move first? Alderwoman O'Neill will move the adoption of the motion, or the resolution.
Second?
Seconded by Alderman Plufka. All right, so it's moved and seconded that the board adopt Resolution 1081. Is there any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize to the board, but I missed the Public Works Committee when this came to the Public Works. So my questions, unfortunately, I'd love to have dealt with at the committee meeting, but that was due to my error, not the board's. I have a couple questions as to what we're doing and some of the procedures and would like some clarification. Can I question our Parks Director on this one, Your Honor?
Any objection from the board? Seeing none.
Okay.
Eric, you got a minute?
Any objection from the Parks Director?
I think he's our Director of Parks and Recreation.
Eric, in setting up the
Have a
dog
right to
park
remain
and
silent.
procedures, are we anticipating putting park personnel present at the dog park? Or is this going to be monitored by the personnel using the park?
Correct. It will not be monitored by staff, so usually it's self-policed by the members of the dog park.
Okay. If I'm one of these people using the park and I perceive that there's a problem, do I call the park department or do I call the police department?
We call the park department. We will have forms ready to go, incident report forms for dog park incidents,
Okay. Your hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
or dusk, whichever
Dusk.
comes
So
sooner.
that does cover normally when I have somebody at the parks area. We do have people in the parks department in the main building during the Sunday hours also,
Correct.
okay, to work with. When we are setting up this procedure, we're looking to establish a 200 membership limit, but nowhere in our rules do we determine if the membership, how many are residential, how many are non-residential. Does the park department have some way of determining how membership will be allowed out and how we're going to make this work?
What we talked about in Public Works was allowing resident membership sales first. And although we hadn't really discussed the time, we thought we'd bring it up again tonight. Our thought was if the board would be agreeable to this, being able to bring this tonight, we can start membership sales. Our goal is to start sales November 1st and then go through resident-only sales November, all the month of November, so give residents a full month, and then start non-resident sales in December. Now, we could change that. If the board liked us to do resident sales longer, we obviously can, but that gives residents a full month. And then if year after year, dog park members will start renewal memberships earlier as well, so they'll get a chance to renew before anyone else can.
That being the case, can you perceive that if you develop a waiting list during a year, that somebody on that waiting list, even the next year, may stay on the list because my other members re-upped and I never got a chance to move forward?
It is possible, in talking to all the multiple dog parks around the other municipalities, and there's also a dog park consortium that we're actually already joined. That doesn't happen a lot. A lot of times people set these maxes in great anticipation, but usually don't hit them. Or if they do come close, they talk to their board or committees or whatever and change the max. So we could run that route as well.
Okay. Page 2 would be your page 39 of the attachments we were given. We get into the general rules of the park. You have in letter I, dog must wear a Brentwood dog park tag and current rabies vaccination tags to work with. Have we got any idea what those cost of the tags will be? And are these radio frequency chip tags or just simple tags?
Nope, these are they're wonderful green boned that says Brentwood Dog Park and member, and will be succinctly numbered. We found them from a number of different dog parks around who use the same company. It's an online company. For the 200 tags, we're paying about $150, a little bit under that. So that's
When
our
I
cost.
come and bring my registration to get as a membership, am I gonna have pictures taken of the owner and the dogs so that we have some
No.
type of book?
We actually discussed that as well. Most dog parks do not do that. The only one that we know who does is actually Maplewood.
Yep.
But most people will have name of the puppies. The name of the dog will be part of the registration. And again, in talking with most dog park, the descriptions of the dogs, if there's any incidents, you can get from the owner and then the dog name and the description of the dog. So we're not worried about having to take photos of each dog.
Okay. Staying on your page 39, I'm dropping down to letter S is the things that are not allowed in the dog park. And you have in there that aggressive and dangerous dogs specifically, but not limited to, bitten by another animal or person or any dog which has been declared dangerous. Missouri has what we call the first bite, a free first bite rule. So dog bites someone, the first bite is considered
No, we don't.
vicious. It is not considered a vicious dog until the second bite. Yes.
I'm sure you're more familiar with the law in this area than I am, but I've never heard of that.
Missouri is one of the few states that's considered what they call a first bite rule as a freebie. And thus, I'm asking, how do we get and monitor who is or is not a dangerous or vicious dog?
That is, and again, in talking with a lot of people, that is left open to interpretation, mainly because we want to be able to take a look at each case individually. If Missouri is a one bite is free, doesn't mean that the dog park has to be a one bite is free. We can take each case individually and look at the nature of each act, which we'll do on those incident forms.
My problem is enforcing such. If it's discretionary, you'll not really get into the argument or the discussion until a problem has occurred. The intent is to try to avoid that problem for the benefit of the rest of the memberships in the dog park. Is there a better way of accomplishing this?
The short answer is no, and I'll stick with the short answer.
Well, my problem is I assume on your registration form, you're gonna ask a question as, has the dog been involved in any incidents or altercations with any other person or animal? And you're gonna hope for an honest answer, but we have no real way of checking it.
Right, and then there's a liability form that touches on that, and then if we find out that they were untruthful in that, then we can use that as part of a revocation of their membership.
Okay. Yeah. And
I'm reminded of a Peter Sellers movie. Peter Sellers comes into the hotel lobby, and there's an old gentleman sitting there with his dog. And Peter Sellers says to the old gentleman, "Does your dog bite?" And the gentleman says, "No." And he reaches down, and the dog goes, bites him, and he says, "I thought you said your dog didn't bite." And the old man says, "That is not my dog."
yes. S6.
So I'm not sure how you prevent that.
Well, but my problem is working through some of these rules and policies. The intent here is to get your book going. I think there's a few holes that we need to look at, and I'd love to get them addressed before we go through what I call a trial and error. If we can get a little bit more meat as to how your group's gonna proceed on it. The limit is understand, the minute somebody has a problem with a pet, you will have the emotional entanglement also. And having something a lot more specific helps you get through that emotional entanglement and dealing with your complainants.
I understand, but if you have hard and fast sort of, if you nip but a bite, I mean, it's hard to have something that's so black and white, especially when you're dealing with dogs. Going through this in another municipality in Clayton, we're developing these rules, and then talking to all the other municipalities I talked to, we looked at a lot of different policies and procedures. We meshed what we thought were the best, put them all together, and we're very confident in these rules. So I'm not worried about being able to handle incidents. I know that there will be some questionable incidents, but that's why you have the Parks and Recreation Department to handle those type of things.
Yeah, but we're all the first time in for this group. If I may, Your Honor, I have one last question for the city attorney that I'd like to get clarified, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. So, Mr. O'Keefe, the last question I have is letter T on page 39, and that's the Constitution, the written of the waiver liability. When they come in and register with us and they sign a thing that says that they hold the city harmless for all of this, is that really something that is going to hold up in a case complaint if we get that far with somebody with a problem
I expect so.
to work with?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've never had to use one, so I'm not 100% sure. The guy's got the thing on the thing that if you park your car in his lot, he's not responsible. I'm told he is, because he took your money and let you park on it. We took their money and allowed them to use the facility.
We're probably not going to create any bailments with the dogs, though.
Anyway, I'm not sure what the term is.
Just guessing.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all my questions.
All right. Alderman Sims.
Since Alderman Waggy spent so much time on this, and it would break my heart if he couldn't take his dog to the park with his kids, I noticed on section 6, it says that no one under the age of 12 is able to enter the park. I mean, is it at all possible? Like, what if I had a dog when I was 10, and I certainly walked it alone?
That is pretty much standard rule across most dog parks in not only St. Louis but across the country. And the theory behind that, when I talk to a lot of people, is that is behavioral activities of kids. They want to run, they want to jump, which gets dogs more excited, which then leads to them acting out as well.
Is there no, if the 12, dropping that age, so as long as they're supervised by a parent, so the kids, 12 years and under, all the kids have to can look and no touch, is that?
They
So-
stand outside the fence, longing to get in.
Was there any discussion of that at the committee? I mean, that just,
There is not, and mainly, again, that is.
I'd like to call Alderwoman Sims's attention to his answer to the first question. There will not be parks personnel on site.
and then this was a little persnickety of me, but I noticed that Section D says dog handlers or owners are defined as ages 16 years and older, and then in Section 7B, it says the word owner applies to adult persons. So someone who's 16 is not an adult. Should that be,
We
should
can make that change.
should that be
Sure.
tweaked?
The more than, the reason of the difference is that basically ages 13 through 16, you have to be there with an adult supervision, but you don't want them handling the dogs or doing anything with that. So you have to be 16 to handle the dogs. I will make the change on the
definition.
the definition,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right.
That was
Is that it? All right. Alderman Plufkin.
Your Honor, I call the question.
All right, it's been,
May I?
No.
So I have Alderman Weggie on the phone. He's been listening to the discussion, and I shared with him the point that was just made, that was asked by Alderwoman Sims, and he says, I wouldn't bring them anyway to the dog park. So thank you for that offer, but.
I have no kids, I have no pets. I literally have no dog in this race, but
you don't have a dog in the hunt. All right, well, the question's been called, which means we move to an immediate vote.
No, there's no second.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, David.
It's been moved and seconded that we call the question. Let's see.
All in favor?
No, actually, I think it's a discussable motion.
Okay.
Is it? Do you know, Kevin?
I didn't think it was debated.
It's not debated.
It's a-
You're right.
it's a simple vote.
Anyway. All right, so all in favor of ending debate and calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Yes,
Opposed.
opposed.
Let's have a show of hands.
There's three.
Raise your hand if you are in favor of calling the question, moving to a vote. 1, 2, 3, 4. Raise your hand if you are opposed to calling the question. 1, 2, 3. The motion passes. We'll call the question. Let's have a roll call, please. A yes vote is in favor of adoption of Resolution 1081.
Can it be amended later?
No, the resolution can't be amended later, but the document
Policy.
is a policy and procedure manual that I'm sure the Parks Department will amend from time to time as necessary.
All right.
The resolution adopting it, though, will be a resolution adopting it. All right, so let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Do you want to vote?
He can't vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he has to be a no vote. So I count,
It has to be a non-vote.
yes, a non-vote, right, sorry. But
He should have.
the record should reflect he is absent.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes. So I count 6-1, the resolution passes. The board has adopted the policies and procedures as submitted. Eric, reminding you that you did agree to change the one definition for the discussion. All right, very good.
Your Honor, if I may, on that one definition, I think the reason you have the adult as the owner arrangement is if case there is a problem, a minor cannot be held liable, the owner of the dog must be held liable. And someone 16 years of age can't be held liable, the parents are the owners of the dog. And if you go into a suit because of damages, you have to sue the parents. So the term using adult is correct versus reducing it to someone of age 16 or higher.
Okay. Accounts against the city. Alderman Demmett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had an opportunity to go over the warrant list with the city administrator, and I would make a move for approval of the warrant list in the amount of $185,333.28.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen approve the warrant list as submitted in the amount of $185,3328. Is there any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let's stay with page one and work it that way. Can I ask for a little bit of further understanding on the St. Louis County Election Board? We are basically looking at a cost of, I assume it's $1,600 is the actual bill for putting the internet tax, or is it a $10,000?
It's that total amount in the warrant list, 10,139.06.
Because we have one item that we're putting on the November election. That's
They've started charging
a lot more,
for renting of the equipment as well.
because it
And-
used to cost us $3,000 to do.
Right, they've changed their methodology and how they do the calculation and pass on those costs to the municipalities that have these elections. We believe that just changed this year. We didn't find out, so most people are gonna find out when they, if they have items on the ballot coming up in November, and those that don't will find out next year that the cost has gone up.
Is it too late to petition St.
Yes.
Louis County that we move this
I
thing to
had-
the April when we're paying for the election anyway? I mean, $10,000 to find out if we can do a tax.
The
See-
ballots are already in the mail and.
We would have to go to court, yeah,
For this
to
one,
get this
like
one.
3
yeah,
weeks from now?
Yeah, it's
The
late.
people are already voting on it. If you cancel it, you're still gonna pay for it.
Jeez.
People are voting and starting absentee voting 6 weeks
Yes,
out.
we're within 30 days, okay. That's just outrageous that they changed their arrangement, okay. The firehouse on page 2 for the mold. This is just a partial bill,
That's correct.
and can you explain what they're gonna try to accomplish with this partial? This is just a quarterly, or we pay them as they go?
We will pay them as the project moves along. This is just for the developing of the bid documents that was done by Horner Schifrin.
Okay. The Richmond Heights, I do not remember the Public Works Committee or anybody looking at the Richmond Heights July bill that we got any verification of their numbers.
We don't take this to the committee, we bring it straight to the board on the warrant list. And then if you have specific questions, we can answer that tonight.
I had asked you earlier in July when we were gonna see that bill.
I don't remember that, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Bluffka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Al- okay.
Did I count 6-1?
6-1, yes.
6-1, motion carries. Bills are paid for this month. All right, under reports of committees and department heads, under my report, I just have one short item. We've had a couple of instances, and I'm certainly not going to name any names or anything like that, but we've had a couple of instances where, lately, where entities that are interested in receiving the support of the city have directly solicited aldermen to support a particular thing, right? So whatever, a legislative initiative, whatever they're doing. And certainly that's their right to do, and it's certainly your right to support whatever you feel you want to. But I want to remind the aldermen that when you do that, you act as your own personal person or as an alderman, right? So you have to be very clear with these entities that you are acting, lending your support to this as alderman of Ward 1 or alderman of Ward 3 or whatever, or as just a private citizen and leave your alderman title off of it. You are not authorized to act on behalf of the city. And we've had a couple of instances, and again, I'm sure it's the fault of the organization, where somebody has lent their support and then they've ended up saying, well, this is supported by the city of Brentwood. Well, that's not true, because even if all 8 aldermen get together and independently support something, they still are not speaking for the city of Brentwood. The only way the city of Brentwood supports something is if one of you makes a motion in this chamber to adopt a resolution or a motion in support of that thing, and it passes when we speak as a group, okay? So I just want to remind you all, because there's at least 3 or 4 more emails this week for people against bigger trucks and people against better power and people against, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And they're all soliciting your independent opinions, and that's great. And if you're willing to provide that support, that's great too. I just ask you to be doubly careful, if you would, to remind the people that you're corresponding with. Is that a Freudian slip?
By definition.
Would you like to rephrase that?
Yeah, corresponding is what I meant to say, I think. The people that you're corresponding with, that you are not acting on behalf of the city of Brentwood, that you're acting either in your aldermanic capacity or in your individual capacity, okay? Again, I just, well, it can be a little bit embarrassing, right? If the city of Brentwood shows up as the supporter of this, that, and the other thing, you know, we haven't discussed it in this chamber, then it can be a little bit embarrassing, particularly for me, who's supposed to know these things, when people come up to me and say, what the hell are you doing supporting this and that? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I would ask you to help out in that capacity and be very clear with the people that you're working with, that you're acting either in your aldermanic capacity or your individual capacity when you do those things, or if you choose to do those things. Any questions about that? Makes sense? All right, good. Public Safety Committee.
We meet on Thursday, October 19th, in this chamber at 5:30. The only thing on the agenda, I think at this point, other than reports of our fire chief and police chief, we will also be taking up the lighting issue to try to get a final evaluation of that before it gets placed into the budget for 2018 to whatever extent it does. So thank you.
All right, Public Works, Alderman Lockmiller.
Yeah, our next meeting will be next month, November 11th, Wednesday, 4:30, right here. Thank you.
And Director.
Your Honor, there may be a problem. Is not November 11th Veterans Day?
Yeah, that's actually a Saturday.
Yeah.
It is a Saturday.
Did you say November 11th?
Yes, he did.
Well, we can meet on Saturday.
Well, I think the city's
The-
closed.
Well,
Are we not closed? Isn't that one of
Actually,
our-
we're
We don't
going to be
meet on
working that day
Saturdays.
because we're going to have a Veterans Day celebration over at the rec center, and then we're going to
It's
have a
the
little
8th,
lunch.
November 8th.
I'll correct that, it's the 8th.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'll actually be working that day.
All right.
And
Thank you.
I was going to put that under announcements, but we can do that. Director of Planning and Development. I
No
don't-
report tonight.
No report. All right, great. And Ways and Means Committee, Alderman Dimmitt.
Our next meeting will be November 2nd.
November 2nd. And Mr. City Attorney,
No report, sir.
Madam City
No
Administrator,
report, sir.
and Madam Excise Commissioner.
No report.
All right, Madam Library Liaison.
No report.
And under the Municipal League, I've got nothing this evening. Under announcements, as I mentioned, we are having our annual Veterans Day celebration. We will have it on Veterans Day, which is the 11th, which is a Saturday. We're planning on having a ceremony starting at 11 o'clock. There'll be some nice songs. The American Legion will post the colors. We'll have a speech from a noted local veteran, and then we will have some food afterwards. So I would encourage all the aldermen that are not doing anything on Saturday around noon to pop by, or 11 and pop by.
City Hall.
And it's over at the rec center, actually.
Rec Center.
Yeah, it's an easier place to have food. So we're going to do it over there. Ballroom A, or Room A?
See.
C, the one with the kitchen. No, we're not doing it there. Oh, couldn't get that one, huh? Wow. Me and the veterans just don't rank. That's all right. Fair enough. All right, so in room C. That's all I got for announcements. Anybody else? Alderwoman O'Neill.
A couple. Ward 4 will meet next Tuesday, October 24th at 6 o'clock at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse. And then, perhaps not an announcement, but a commendation. Our flower arrangements in the city have never looked better. There are planters where there have never been planters. They are absolutely gorgeous. There are a lot of native plants. I have been thoroughly enjoying all of the plantings that have been done this summer, and I think we should extend accolades to the person who is doing that.
Her name is Karen Burns.
Well said.
Yeah, and let me just second that. I actually received no less than 3 emails this week regarding the centerpiece in front of City Hall with the pumpkins and the whole, that, fantastic. So please, Eric, pass along to Karen. It's wonderful job, outstanding. So, you had something else? Or? Oh, Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Ward 3 meeting is been moved up to this coming next week, Tuesday, the 24th at 7 p.m. here in the council room. All are invited. And I would also like to send out a thank you to all of the 16 hosts for the National Night Out program, both the fire department, the police department, and city personnel that help make the individual block parties possible. This is what helps make a better community, is when we take time to work with each other and expand our social network. So good job and thank you.
Other announcements? Now, along those same lines, Andy, I want to thank Sally, the American Legion Post, the Optimist Club, and Gene Dell Printing. Yeah, for the firefighters recognition dinner. I attended. They've done it every year for we decided 33 years. 35 years. So yeah, and I was privileged to be invited and attend again this year. So real nice event, real fun night as usual. So
Good.
any further announcements? Seeing none. New business. We have one item of new business this evening. I believe it's Alderman Lockmiller's.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to explore marketing services and support for the Brentwood Century Foundation in their fundraising and sponsorship efforts for the Brentwood Centennial.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the board direct staff to explore marketing services in support of the Brentwood Century Foundation's fundraising and sponsorship initiative. Is there any discussion? Alderman Lockmiller.
Yeah, as you all know, I serve on the Brentwood Century Foundation as their liaison to the board. And they've come to the Parks Department looking for projects that they could do around the city. And they're wanting to raise funds for these projects, whether it be corporate or personal donations. And we have a talented staff that has participated in Clayton's Century Foundation. And I thought maybe Eric could come up and give a little background on this, on how we could better help the foundation. Instead of recreate the wheel, Eric has some background in this, and he could help their staff, as well as look into how we would put a policy together for naming rights. If, for instance, you've got the Century Plaza, which will maybe be $1 million project, if a corporation would stand up or step up and want maybe naming rights, we really, and I guess we don't, Bola, have a policy in place for
Right.
offering up those naming rights.
Exactly. This would accomplish that as part of the marketing effort.
And I
Can
think
we still call it the Thornton Centennial Plaza if we do that? That's going to muck up my plans, I
Are you
think.
making the $1 million donation?
Is this with or without the custard stand?
I'm joking.
But I think we have, Mr. O'Keefe, I believe, was helped with Clayton's policy
Yes.
on naming rights.
Right.
So we have a lot of talented staff here that could help in this way. And, I mean, Eric, if you'd like. if
Does the
Eric
board
would
have
come
any objection to hearing from Director Grunenfelder on this? All right. Eric?
Thank you, Alderman Lockmiller. So just as a background, when I was in the city of Clayton, it was right when the Clayton Century Foundation was formed and started to their infancy, and was around there as they started to raise money. And if you haven't heard, they just opened Chapman Plaza, which was about a $7 million project for the corner of Forsyth and Brentwood Boulevard, which always frustrates me a little bit because I know Patty DeForest's director really well, and my joke to her is that she got $7 million for a hill, and I got $7 million for the Brentwood Recreation Complex. But I don't let that bother me too much. But the idea is that we had a meeting with the Brentwood Century Foundation about a week and a half ago, and we were talking about the Party of the Century, and afterwards we started talking about the different projects that we could fund throughout the Parks Department or throughout the whole city, in fact. And so we're talking about that ask and going out to the sponsors and the corporate sponsors and how to do that. And the next day, you know, I started talking to Janet, our communications manager, and Bola, and I kind of talked to them like, you know, when Clayton started doing this, really, they came with a packet. I mean, it was a full, flat-out packet that talked about, you know, what their mission was, who they were, kind of was an introduction to the foundation, and then actually had kind of the pull-out of each of their different projects and talked about how much funding they needed, and actually had a couple projects they'd already done. So it's like, hey, you know, we've been successful and things like that. And it wasn't just someone going up to someone and said, hey, can you give me some money? It was really something that was well done, well developed, and to be completely honest, it was not done by anyone in the foundation. They went out to a firm, is actually the Rome Group, that helped them kind of go through all that, and then they worked through a few months of doing that. And so, when not trying to spend the city's money, but knowing that the foundation still had some money this year that they weren't going to spend, we talked about maybe being able to help them, Janet, myself, and Bola, and work with the foundation to get that sponsorship packet done. And thinking ahead, if we're doing that, then we should probably have a conversation with the board about naming rights policies. That's something the board would entertain. Would the board think about things like putting naming rights on something? If you look in Shaw Park, you have the Enterprise Holding Pavilion, you have Chapman Plaza, and you're going to have something else on the ice rink. And is that something that the city of Brentwood wants to do? That is up to the board and up to the city, but if you do, that's a policy that needs to be written and something we should do concurrently to working with the sponsorship packet. So fortunately, like I said, and what Alderman Lockmuller said, we had the person who wrote it sitting right over there, and find Clayton, replace Brentwood, and it pretty much writes itself, and so we can do it pretty quickly. But those type of things can be done. And so that's why we're here tonight, and I think Janet could probably talk about some of the marketing aspect of it. If you want to talk to her about different marketing firms in Brentwood we can contact and things like that. So,
Alderman Lockmuller.
And it's not just the Brentwood Century Foundation. We could carry this forward as we develop the Manchester Road renewal, where areas of the park, a path or whatever, money could be donated from a corporation and given naming rights for that. So this could be a policy that could be put in place and used in future years.
and again, not to keep harkening back to the Clayton Century Foundation, but their centennial's 2013. Chapman Plaza opened this past week. They had a party there where the owner of Enterprise, Jim Taylor, thank you, I blanked on his name for a second, came up and already gave $750,000 for the pavilion, looked at Chapman Plaza and told Patty, this is beautiful, I'm not doing enough, what else can I do for you? And it's going to give more money to do something else in Shaw Park. So those are the type of stories that happen in Clayton that we could replicate here in Brentwood.
Alderman
The
Leahy.
intent of your motion is to work the marketing through existing staff here in Brentwood. You're not looking to go out for a professional service agreement.
Well,
No, it would just be staff.
Just,
Is it staff?
No,
I
I-
thought we were going out.
Yeah, I think the
It's
idea
not
is
staff.
to, with the money that the foundation still has available this year, is to work with a firm to get that packet together. 'Cause
Right. The packet that we saw was professionally done, not to say the staff couldn't do it, but if we want something that is befitting of our city, that incorporates some of the items that we mentioned in the memo and some of the items that Alderman Lockmiller mentioned, different aspects of the Great Rivers Greenway project, or the tunnel, or the overpass, we can definitely do a combination of naming rights and donation policy both, so that it will help the city further along in getting these different things accomplished. So it'd be naming rights and policy, and we would go out for professional services. It would not be staff doing it, but staff would participate in that process.
Do we have some type of rough estimate of what this effort might cost to put into, to get this together?
So I believe in the budget for this fiscal year and in the budget for next fiscal year, the board has authorized 20,000, and of that, maybe 3,000, between 3 and 5
I'll
has
look
been
to Tony.
spent.
I know Tony Bowman's here.
Does Tony remember how many, how much?
You know, we're supposed to meet with you all, but I think that should be right.
I think there should be sufficient amount of money
Yeah,
to do this in here.
Just on a technical matter, I didn't hear any mention of any spending of money in the motion. So I think, I think the motion before the board, at least as far as I can remember, is that we were directing staff to go off and research
Yes,
this
request for
path,
marketing
this course
services.
of action. So I would expect that if we're gonna look at spending money, there would be a proposal come back through, say, one of the committees
Well,
and.
and the idea and the way this works out a little bit nicer is that it's the Century Foundation's funding, since the funding goes through them. They have, if I understand, and
10,000?
Attorney O'Keefe can correct me, since it's their funding given to them through the city, they can go, we could,
They wouldn't have to follow the city's purchasing policy.
trying to say it
Absolutely.
without saying it like that, yes. A little bit
Yeah,
lax on the purchasing policy,
No, I
so we could go out
think
and-
we've already authorized them, if my recollection is correct, up to $20,000. So they submit receipts and we pay them as long as we, I mean, there's no issue. So, yeah, but I think really all that's wanted in the motion, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is that the board to sort of authorize the direction of staff in this direction and move forward.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
I might add that there's one aspect, and Bulla just mentioned it, and while I appreciate Eric's crediting me with perhaps more than I deserve, but in addition to naming rights, for not just the foundation, but also for the city, is a general contributions policy. You know, not all contributions are equal, and not all of them are necessarily a good idea. And among other things, you can run into a substantial maintenance cost that had never been budgeted.
People wanting to contribute streets to us, for example?
Well, a lot of things like that. So I think part of this effort.
We've had several of those.
From a staff perspective is a question of talking about the city's contribution policy that takes into account downstream costs and the character of the contribution being proposed for the benefit of the foundation and the foundation's own policy in that regard. So just a suggestion that these are some of the things that staff can do without talking about hiring outside resources.
Yeah, one of my big argument to the city staff's big argument to the Century Foundation, the Clayton Century Foundation, was endowment, and having every contribution come with endowment for future maintenance. And at the time, the Century Foundation didn't want to add that to any of their requests because they didn't want to add that extra money. And so the city has been stuck funding those repairs, and right now it's not a whole lot. The Chapman Plaza came with a $2.5 million endowment because that is a huge maintenance concern for the city, so.
No, that's
Makes sense. Any further discussion? Are we ready for a vote on the motion? Great. All in favor of the motion, let's see, I won't restate it, we've had it a few times. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. It's unanimous in favor, it passes. All right, staff is so directed. Item number 19 on the agenda, hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present. If anyone would like to come forward and address the board. Going once, going twice. Sold American. I would entertain a motion to enter into closed session and adjourn therefrom.
So moved.
Second.
Let's see, the motion actually has to state the exception, so,
Your Honor, I make a motion that we move to closed session to consider items under Missouri Revised Statutes, Chapter 610.021, subsection 1, Missouri Revised Statutes, Chapter 610.021, point 2, and Missouri Revised Statutes, Chapter 610, Section 021, subsection 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the board enter into closed session and adjourn therefrom pursuant to 610-21-1, 2, and 3. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes?
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Great. We will reconvene upstairs in 9 minutes.